This afternoon, we're going to dig way deeper into conversations surrounding equity, diversity and inclusion, hearing from some experts on unconscious bias and how to excel as a minority in your field. Our next session does exactly what it says on the tin, ED&I in the office, where we'll hear from experts on improving equity, diversity and inclusion in the workplace for women. Our panel chair for this session is Antoinette, multi-award winning career and business author, and joining her is Dr. Zaheer, Ahmad MBE, Senior Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Professional, Yetunde Dania, Head of Office at Trowers and Hamlins in Birmingham, and Sharon Blyfield, OBE, Head of Early Careers at Coca-Cola, Europacific Partners. Please welcome our next panel to the stage.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Welcome to this panel on ED&I in the office. Today, our goal is to explore the challenges and the opportunities in creating more equitable, diverse and inclusive workplaces for women. We organised this session to share insights, real-world experiences and innovative strategies that can drive meaningful change across organisations. You heard briefly there about our esteemed panellists. Let me say a little bit more about them. Dr. Zaheer Ahmad, MBE, is a seasoned senior diversity, equity and inclusion professional. He brings a deep understanding of the systemic challenges and strategic solutions in implementing ED&I practices. Sharon Blyfield, Yetunde first. Yetunde Dania, as the head of office in Birmingham at Trowers and Hamlins. Yetunde has hands-on experience in creating inclusive office environments and driving everyday change. Next, we have Sharon Blyfield, OBE, leading early careers at Coca-Cola Europacific Partners. So Sharon is at the forefront of nurturing talent and promoting career progression for women. And at the end, we have Zaheer Ahmad, founder and CEO at Gift Wellness. So Zaheer offers a unique entrepreneurial perspective on integrating wellness into ED&I initiatives. But before we dive into our discussion, I'd like to engage you with a quick poll. By a show of hands, how many of you believe that your organisation is currently taking effective steps to support ED&I in the workplace? You have to protest. Okay. Some, but definitely not all. Some. It's a bit hard. We're blinded by the lights up here. But I wonder what the panel makes of that show of hands. Are we impressed? Or does that just reinforce some of the challenges that we have?
Can you all hear me? Yes. First of all, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Not surprised at all. I think that's my answer. I think there were a handful of individuals who put their hands up, but the majority didn't put their hands up, and I think it just goes to say that how much more we need to do in this space to accelerate the pace of change, but also promote the best practice, and role model the kind of sort of policies, practices that we would like to see in this space. So I think when people say, so I'll sum it up in sort of one sentence, when people say that, we've come a long way on gender equality, but there's progress still needs to be made, I tend to flip it the other way around. We've made some progress, but there is a long way to go. To me, that makes sense, but I'm not surprised by the show of hands.
Yeah, I probably echo that. I'm completely disappointed, if I'm honest. We're mothers, sisters, aunts. We exist, and yet society makes us look like we've got two heads and that we're something that shouldn't be encouraged, celebrated, for our talent to be nurtured and for the cream to rise to the top. And we're still having this conversation in 2025. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm kind of like, really? It feels like we're going backwards.
Thank you. I would say that some of the hands probably wanted to go partially up because they knew they were on the journey, but didn't have the confidence to put their hand fully up, because I kind of went like that, because I know that we have a long way to go. We are making big strides, but we have a long way to go.
Yeah, similarly, I mean, I agree with all of you who put your hands up, and that, you know, there are very few organisations that are embracing equality and diversity, truly embracing. And, you know, my work is all about creating female-friendly workplaces in particular, but by embracing inclusivity as a whole. And in the surveys that we've done, we've found every time we've done a survey with all of our customers from Gift Wellness and contacts from our period poverty charity, it's always been no more than no less than 85% that say that they're satisfied with their ED&I policies in the workplace. So it doesn't surprise me at all.
Okay, so it sounds as though, however positive the intent of organisations, as you say, we've got a long way to go. So Dr. Zaheer, you have first-hand experience of some of the challenges that organisations face when they try to implement ED&I initiatives in the organisation. Can you tell us a little bit more about what those specific challenges are and how you have seen organisations overcome them?
I think that's a great question. How much time do we have on this? Now, look, I try to approach this work in a sort of a simplified way, because I think it's not about me understanding this, it's the majority out there. If they can get it, they understand it, it resonates with them, and they take some sense, you know, a level of ownership into this, then we can drive change. So for me, there are like two things, and I'll keep it very simple here, or I'll try to. There are interpersonal challenges. So it's the connection with each other, the role of other person, majority, men. I'll kind of sort of talk from the men's perspective, from an allyship perspective. And then you go structural challenges, policies, processes, decision-makings, the culture in the organization. So those are two things, and you can argue that, people make the culture and, but for me, it's like when we connect or interact, or our role in the space of gender equality, gender equity, individual contributors. So most of the conversations center around leadership accountability, setting strategies, setting diversity ambitions, gender goals, targets, whatever you want to call them. But there are roles or responsibilities and obligation, I would say, every individual has to play in this. And I think we often miss that point because we kind of sort of get tunnel vision around, what's your overall representation? Do you have targets? Do you have EDI strategy, DEI strategies? Do you have leadership development programs? Which is okay, and I get it. All of them are useful or helpful tools in advancing gender conversations, and then you have the policies, and then I've been doing this for long enough I was driving here from London this morning for this event, and I was thinking, what can I say that I haven't said it before? And I've been doing this for a long time, gender equality, diversity, race equality for over 25 years, and I couldn't come up with anything new. Because it's the same conversation that we've talked about it for a very long time. Yes, we earlier touched on this, we made progress. There's more women in the organizations now, so representation is improving, and representation of women in the organization remains one key challenge. However, when you start to peel away the layers, we talk about representation in senior positions. We don't talk about representation, for example, in STEM-related roles. If you look at the data, and I'm not a betting man. If I was, I'll probably put a bet on most organizations having a high number of women represented in roles such as HR, marketing, comms, admin-related roles. So my challenge to organization whenever I speak to them is, look, you got to now go beyond just the sort of overarching or overall representation of women in organization. Yes, we have 56%. Okay, that's great. Okay, well done. Let's break that data down and let's look at where the women are. Are they in high-paid roles? Are they in roles that are more likely to get them into senior leadership positions? How long it's taking them as compared to men? So the point I'm trying to make here is that the challenges are still the same, and I don't want to take away from this conversation the progress let's just say it is a progress that we have made so far. It's been tireless work in this space, and I do want to commend everybody who remains committed to this, but I do want us to just take a moment to realize that there is still a huge amount of work that still needs to be done. If you look at the gender pay gap, there isn't an organization that can show consistently over a number of years the reduction in their gender pay gap, both across mean and median. So it's kind of sort of goes up, goes down, then, that's action plan. I will come to it pause soon. The bottom line is, and I've wondered about this for a very long time, one of the missing pieces of the jigsaw is the role of men. That's why I'm here, and I do this quite a lot, and I talk about the challenges women face, not just in the workplace, in my own community, in my own society, at home, because it's all connected. We can't change the culture of an organization if the challenges remain in the society. It doesn't mean that we don't need to do anything at workplace. Of course we do, but we also have an obligation and duty and a responsibility to, and I'm now talking to men here, to be allies at home, in society, and in the workplace. Allyship is the cornerstone of the progress that we want to make. It is the foundation on which we need to drive tangible, meaningful change, and it doesn't happen the minute, it's not a 9-to-5 thing. And don't come into work and you become an ally, and then when you switch off your computer, you stop being an ally. So the role of the man in here is and I'll make one final point and then I'll pause, I promise. Most organizations come out and, I'll give you a very recent example. Many organizations have recently come out progressive parental leave policies. We're very proud to have a very progressive, forward-thinking parental leave policy. That's great. That's one part of the puzzle. Now show us how you're encouraging men to take that leave as well. Are your leaders role modeling? Are they leading by example? Or is there just a policy there and you're not actually measuring the usage of that policy and comparing both, with men and women? If you're not encouraging men, then to be honest with you, it's frankly speaking, you shouldn't. It doesn't make any difference. Does that make sense? So it's encouraging men to be more vocal, more visible in this space, role modeling the behaviors that we want to see, sharing personal as well as professional stories, how they're making a tangible, meaningful difference in this space. As you can see, I can talk for a very long time on this, but I'm going to pause.
Well, thank you. Well, we'll come to you, Yetunde, next. But what I'm hearing is there's two factors, primarily the interpersonal and social on one hand. On the other, there's the policies and frameworks. But what everything is trying to do is actually change behaviour and create action. And in particular, the behaviours and actions of men, and not only in the workplace, but also in society, so that they can play more of that allyship role. So Yetunde, how would you build on that in terms of your experience of creating inclusive workplaces?
Yeah, so I'm a lawyer by trade, not known for being diverse on a gender basis, but I'm fortunate enough to be at a firm where the partnership itself probably is more heavily weighted towards women. I have a senior partner who is a woman. Her predecessor was a woman. So all of that role modelling is, in a way, there. We have 4 offices in the UK, and 3 of those are headed by women. So it's a very positive environment, but nonetheless, there's still a lot to do. And so we've recently conducted a really big listening exercise. It involved all of our female partners, and it also involved the men as allies, because what we can see is obviously there is a dip in representation, female representation, traditionally around when people are getting married and starting their families, and then again as they're coming towards the end of their careers possibly, and when they're hitting menopause. And so that is a challenge to say, how do we still invest in these women and let them know that they still have a place within our business? And so that's where we're focusing a lot of attention at the moment. So in terms of women going off on mat leave, traditionally there was a feeling that, oh, if you're on mat leave, you can't get promoted to be a partner. So we've done a lot of work around that. And again, at the menopause stage, we're going through a process of education, because previously nobody would talk about menopause. So in Birmingham, we've just moved offices. I was very keen to make sure we've got a wellbeing room so that mothers returning from work, if they're breastfeeding, for whatever reason, they have somewhere to go. We're also doing a very big educational piece amongst the partners in particular around wellbeing in its wider sense. And the conversations that we've had have been very, very interesting and have ranged from that whole sort of burnout to menopause to depression to all of that kind of thing. And again, I think it's those conversations that need to happen, but not just happen once. The conversations need to continue. I also would say that we as women have a role to play in our behaviour and how we present ourselves at work and how we turn up. I try to be as encouraging and as visible as possible and provide opportunities for women to come through, to ask those questions, to learn. But I've certainly seen those behaviours amongst women who reach that leadership piece and then all of a sudden draw up the drawbridge, draw up the ladder, don't send the lift back down. And for me, that's absolutely unforgivable. I get it that some women have attained leadership at a time when it was an all-male environment. That I can kind of go, okay, I kind of get it, but why would you not want to see more diversity in the place that you work? But for me, that's unforgivable. Those types of behaviours, wherever they come from, for whatever reason. So for me, it's always about sending the lift back down, trying to be the best role model that I can be. And not only that, I'm a black woman at the end of the day as well. So, there are even fewer of me, people who look like me in the position that I am in, but I do feel that I have a responsibility to leave my profession in a more diverse position than it was when I entered the profession.
May I ask more about your listening exercise? You said you've just executed a big listening exercise, which sounds fantastic, because we've heard a lot today about the importance of conversation and listening. What did you hear? What were the main things? Was it about the challenges women face, or was it about the support they wanted, or was it about both?
I think it was across the piece, really. I can only speak for my group. So my group, yes, I'm very fortunate. I'm an equity partner. My issue is, hold on a moment, I'm a lot older than my male counterparts. What is that about? So some was about allocation of work. That's a big issue, because obviously if you don't get to do some of the more complex stuff, some of it was about that allyship. Who's speaking up for us when we're not in the room? Who is saying, oh, do you know what? Actually, we should give so-and-so the opportunity. So conversations were around some of that. So it's a broad thing, and it also included... Sorry, I talked about partners, but it also included some of our senior women on the business development side as well. So that is sort of your HR, PR, marketing, that kind of thing. And so what they had to say, in a way, was no different to the partners.
Fabulous, thank you. Yetunde, Sharon, I wonder, you specialise in early careers. Are you hearing anything different from those that are just starting out?
So I think those who are just starting out are probably a bit more optimistic. I would suspect the majority of the people in the audience on this stage have had probably much longer careers than the people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. So they come in very optimistic. They do see that there is potential pathways for them. I think the biggest challenge is about how they navigate that pathway. And this morning in one of the sessions, one of the young ladies talked about mentoring and sponsorship. And I think that is absolutely critical from an early careers perspective, because you need to have somebody who has that voice that is talking about you, but also at the same time is balanced as well. Somebody in their early careers who is trying to understand the corporate norms. How do I act? How do I represent? How do I turn up within that? Needs to be nurtured. And we have to do that really early on. And we have to equip young women coming in. Well, actually, in reality, we have to equip everybody coming into the workplace, but we will probably put a greater emphasis on females to ensure that we are building that network and that pathway through for them so they do become the future senior leaders within an organisation, and not just within my own organisation. We're building them for other organisations, because no one's going to spend 30 odd years in an organisation in reality anymore within that. So there's a lot about support, sponsorship, nurturing, and really navigating for them. We have many different allyship communities within our organisation that they can join and that they can become part of, so that they can then start to build their voice. Because I think that's also really important, is that they have that voice, so that when they then start to look at what's my career path, where am I going to go next, who's the person that I see that I want to become the next, whatever the role is, that they have a voice to be able to say, that's the direction that I'm going in, and this is the pathway that I think I'm going to take to get me there. And it may well be that it's leaving your organisation to go somewhere else, because I can see myself potentially getting there quicker within that organisation. I think one of my biggest concerns when we talk about and we focus just on gender is we often talk about a lot of female initiatives, and that automatically puts the barriers up for those males who are not necessarily allies. They're not necessarily against the approach, but they see it very much as, well, that's a female initiative, so it's nothing to do with me. Whereas it actually should be a very inclusive initiative that, as it has been said before, that really educates, and it educates everybody. It educates the male counterparts, but also those females who didn't send the lift back down. They need to be educated as well. And one of the things we often talk about from an early careers perspective, if it was your son, daughter, niece, nephew, how would you want them to be treated in the workplace? Put yourself back into that parent while you're saying, well, that young lady, they'll never be an engineer. They don't have the hand dexterity. No, but they have the logical brain to work through what the problem is. Would you want somebody to be saying that about your child in the workplace? Or even just getting through the interview? Because that's the starting point for all of this, whether you are trying to join an organisation or progress within the organisation. It's how do you get through the interview? Who coaches you? Who mentors you through all of that? And that's what we always have to think about. How do I get to that next place? Sadly, we know that there are still taps on the shoulder, but if females aren't applying for roles in an organisation, ask yourself why. Why aren't they applying? Go back and do the due diligence. Go and talk to them to say, I really thought you would have applied for that job. Why didn't you? And most of the time it will be because, goes back to the cliche, I didn't think I would fulfil the criteria, or nobody actually spoke to me to say this would be a really good job for you to go for. I think that you've got the skills. So it's also about that encouragement for the individual. to be able to make them see and make them have the belief in their ability to be able to move forward within it. Now, nobody's said it yet, so I'm just going to say it. EDI right now is being weaponised. So whatever you associate with it, whether it be gender, race, disability, it's being weaponised to say that for everything that's going wrong in an organisation, it's because of EDI. And that's a really naive way of thinking. I think if we are all honest, the individuals and the countries where it's coming from, they've lacked clarity at the moment. And we can't allow ED&I to be weaponised because it is so important for us to get it right and to leave a positive legacy for the next generation, which is who I look after that are coming through.
Can I build on that, Sharon? Because I think that is a very important and very current topic. And I think for me, a lot of it is about the success stories that show that these initiatives have really had a positive impact on the organisation in the way the organisation often cares about productivity, performance, profit, etc., etc. Can you, or open to the whole panel, the success stories that would say, this really made a difference?
So I'll pass the mic in just a moment. Being a bit greedy, aren't I? So when I look internally to my own organisation, some of the individuals who lead our manufacturing sites are female engineering directors. It's taken us a while to get those female engineering directors in place. And so then when I do all of the work experience and the tours and everything, they're the individuals I pull out because they are females at senior levels in STEM in an organisation. And that then tells me it's been hard work, but we're starting to get it right. And therefore we've got the role models to represent.
And sorry, what would they say allowed that to happen? And I'm interested, Yetunde, from your experience as well, those senior directors that were already in place, what helped them get to where they are?
So we didn't just crack open the door, we pushed it wide open and said, we believe in you. We know that you have the ability. So one of our biggest sites in Europe is led by a female director who has an engineering background. And we gave her the opportunity. I say we gave her. We didn't really give her. She took it. She was like, I've got pointy elbows. I'm coming in here. And once you go in with your pointy elbows, ain't no stopping you.
Hey, thank you. Yetunde.
I'll speak from personal experience, to be fair. I think when I joined Trowers 14 years ago, I was very different. I lacked confidence because somebody had enjoyed taking my confidence away from me and telling me that I was rubbish at my job. I've always been passionate about people. I do genuinely care. And for me, I think there's nothing more exciting than sharing somebody's career journey and sharing in their success when you see somebody do something that they didn't think that they were capable of doing. And so my experience was a little bit like, I can't remember who said it, but my predecessor was stepping down and I was like, okay. And then somebody said, well, Yetunde, don't you think you should put your name? I was like, put my name where? Why? It's not going to happen for a whole load of reasons. And I got the job and I was literally like, okay, what do I do with this now? But if it wasn't for that sponsorship that said, you know what, I'm going to stick my neck out and give this person an opportunity, I think the success that the office has had over the last 5 years, the visibility that the office has had, that role modelling, people applying because they can see representation across the whole piece, I don't think we would have seen the success and had the success that we have. It's, at the end of the day, women buy products, right? So why do we not want to make sure that they're represented in the workplace? It's no different. We are all people. We're all representative. We are all worthy. That I don't understand why we just make it so difficult that, it makes total sense. As you said, if you turned around and said, Do you want your daughter to be prevented from having this opportunity? I'm sure most dads would say, definitely not. You can be anything that you want to be, but no, because, you know, when you switch off your ED&I hat at 5 p.m, or you know, you potentially become this different person that says, well, actually, I don't think you are capable of doing that. And I believe in what you've said. It's a 24/7. You have to live it, breathe it, walk it, display it. Otherwise, it's unauthentic.
Fabulous. Thank you, Yetunde. Let's come to Zaheer now. Zaheer, as the CEO of a wellness practice, you bring a fresh perspective. How can wellness practices be integrated into ED&I initiatives? Because we heard earlier about how important women's health is, and bringing the two together. How does that work?
Okay, so first of all, let me tell you what Gift Wellness is. It's a social enterprise. It's a business for good. That I started 12 years ago. And alongside Gift Wellness, we have the Gift Wellness Foundation, which is a period poverty charity. So I manufacture and distribute menstrual products, which are natural, and alongside that also other plastic-free products. My target market is women and girls, and that's how I've learned everything that I've learned about the needs of women. And also being a woman myself, and a mother and a daughter, and so on. And so in terms of wellness best practices in the workplace, so all my journey of Gift Wellness, and our business model is that for every pack we sell of our menstrual products, of gift pads and so on, we donate to women in crisis. So we've donated over 6.5 million through our period poverty work to women in refugee camps, homeless women, food banks, and so on. And then during COVID, I started to peel off the layers of like, okay, we've given all these products away, but what are the underlying causes of why are we having to do this, right? And it, I came up with a range of new products that addressed causes, and one of them was our workplace inclusivity program. And because I've been there like everybody. I remember I was a CEO of a national organisation called the BMF many years ago, and I remember having to give this presentation, right? And I had really bad monthly cycles, and I was about to give the presentation, about to go to the conference room, and I realised that, oh my God, I've started, right? And wasn't feeling well, like nauseous and everything. And there's my boss standing in front of me in front of the conference room saying, come on, Zaheer, everybody's waiting, right? And thinking, okay, what do I do? And, we all have to ask ourselves, what would we do in that situation? And, do I tell the truth that I'm on my period, right? Like the woman in the headscarf saying the P word isn't, what people expect. And it's not the done thing. And I still get that now when I'm talking to charities about giving pads for their aid, as part of their aid. And it shocks them when I say period, right? And I still have to persuade them to take my products, right? And so, do I tell him the truth? Do I tell a lie? Which is usually what I ended up doing, like I've got food poisoning or something, or there's an emergency, I need to go, and then walking away thinking, like, why on earth did I have to lie about something so natural, And so, or do I go ahead with it, grit my teeth and hope for the best and that I don't make a mess, We shouldn't have to be making those decisions. I think the time has come, and I think the key to unlocking this issue for women in the workplace is empathy. It's about fostering empathy in the workplace so that men and others in the workplace feel and understand and are educated about the fact that, men have one main hormone that goes like this throughout their month and throughout their lives. Women have 3 main hormones that go up and down, right? Like this. And there are times when we are good at this and we are best at doing this, and other times when we're better at doing that. And there are times when we want to retreat, and at that time we're better at thinking and strategizing and things like that. There are different times of the month when we are best at doing different things. And if we could tap into that, wow, what a difference we could make. And, so in terms of the challenges that organisations face, it's the retention of fantastic staff that they're losing, whether it's because of their periods or endometriosis and things like that, PCOS and stuff, or whether it's, because of menopause and, the fact that 1 in 10 women are leaving their jobs. Luckily, I was perimenopausal when during COVID lockdown. My poor husband had to put up with it. But if I'd been in a job, he took up yoga and breath work, like, oh shit, here she comes, and I just wanted to punch his face in. I can't lie, but the thing is, if we could harness empathy and get everybody on board with that. And that's what we've done as part of our inclusivity program. So there are 3 modules, and the first part of it is all about creating empathy and fostering empathy and getting everyone on this, making sure everybody knows what menstruation and menopause and those sorts of things actually are, and learning about it, so that they can relate and they can understand when women are going through different things. And one thing a tool that we use, which is extremely innovative, that I came up with during that time when I was writing my book and during COVID and all that sort of thing, is using VR technology. So we kind of gamified it for the boys, right? And you put a headset on, an Oculus, gaming headset, and you step into the shoes of that girl who's about to give the presentation. And we have 6 different scenarios, also from men's perspective as well. And we cover issues like mental health and parental leave, like Zaheer mentioned, and a pregnant woman, but also those intersectional recognitions of, the pregnant woman is also a black woman. She's also from a deprived background. She also wants to go for a promotion, but does she go for it? Does she tell them that she's pregnant, or does she go for the promotion first? And we've had great success with that. And so first phase is all about empathy and then mapping the organisation. Second phase is about the practical implementations, your policies, your products in your toilets and things like that. And then the third phase is about the recognition and actually leading in your industry from the front.
Well, what a wide-ranging conversation we've had. I have to say, from my perspective, I'm the author of 2 books. One's called Grow Your Geeks, one's called Confident Career Conversations. So I specialise in career management and mentoring. So it's been a joy for me to hear about us reinforcing the importance of conversation and mentoring in helping and empowering women and others to take ownership of their career development. As we start wrapping this up now, I wonder if we can just end with each of you giving one key piece of advice. I know that's hard because there's hundreds, but your number one key takeaway for people in the audience on how they can help make their organisations more inclusive. So, Zareen, let's start with you since you have the mic.
I'll go back to the word empathy. That's number one, because once you empathise with your colleagues, regardless of whoever they are, then you've made that first step. and then your partners in this, and that's where you can, and then you see the morale boosting, in your organisation, because there's that empathy between colleagues. And then you see productivity improve, revenue improve, and we've seen it. We've seen so much success.
Fabulous.
Just by starting with empathy.
So empathy. Thank you, Zaheer. Sharon, what about you?
Can never do just one word. But I will go back to what I was saying. If you aren't seeing females, women apply for roles in your organisation, you need to, either externally or internally, you need to look within to be able to answer the question of why.
Thank you, Sharon. Yetunde.
Mine would be confidence. Be confident. Believe in yourself. Oh, that's two. Believe in yourself, and just have a go. I think sometimes we hold ourselves back, and sometimes I think it's just about, and I love this phrase, it's just about stepping into your light, because you don't know what opportunities are there when you just have that courage and confidence to just have a go.
Terrific. And our final word from Dr. Zaheer.
Thank you. You've done the right thing to come here today, but look, these conversations, they're great. And we're delighted to have you here. It's an absolute pleasure, but these conversations alone are not going to translate into something meaningful, tangible. So, after today, that's when, immediately after this, the real work starts. So one thing, promise to yourself, make a pledge to yourself, you don't need to tell anyone, one thing, what is it that you're going to do different, something new, something different going forward? It may well be something very small, it may well be something that you want to start a network, you want to mentor someone, sponsor someone, you want to reach out to your DEI teams and say, hey, I'm here, I can volunteer for something. It may well be that you go and have a conversation at home with the view of sharing responsibilities at home. Whatever it is, please do think about taking an action after today. And that's what I would leave you with.
Well, the best place to end is always on a call to action. So that's our call to action. I'd like to ask you to join me in thanking our panel for all their insights. And thank you to you for your time and attention. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Antoinette. It was a great session.